Hey, what's up? It's Game Hydro. Today we got another video about Plant Master TD Go. We're going to try to make a tier list of who the best plants in the game are so that you can use this list to help you build the best team possible. Now, one tip for building a team to start off with is don't put a whole bunch of people in your team or plants in your team that have the same grid pattern. Put plants on your team with different grid patterns so that depending on what space you have available, you can flood the board with plants, because flooding the board with plants is your most likely chance to win most of the time. Now, there's some plants that are just so ridiculously powerful that they give you an extra good shot. So without further ado, we are going to continue. All right, Blader Zorrot is the first one. He is two horizontal blocks, not too strong, not too weak. Skills include giving physical plants an attack boost and an ultra sword aura that deals damage equal to 160 of attack. Plus he can be hybridized with the Spider Orchid to make Spider Zorrot. Now the Spider Zorrot is pretty legit, but other than that, there's really, if we're being honest, absolutely nothing special about Plant Zorrot. He's solid, if not spectacular. I am going to go B. Next up, we got the Frostfluff Queen, who is almost as strong as Plant Zorrot. Actually, or whatever, Carrot Zorrot. Who cares? Yeah, almost as strong, while also having a really important buff, and a buff that's especially important in a tower defense game, which is the ability to freeze and slow down enemies. You got this skill when Frostfluff Queen hits the enemy if it's slow, reducing movement speed for 2 seconds. And First Snow, which it appears does damage to multiple enemies and slows them down. And she also boosts the stats of water plants and can inherit 34% of the character's base stats. 34% appears to be also what Blader Zorrot can inherit, so it's a little bit standardized among characters. So with that out of the way, we're giving her an A- tier because the freezing skill is excellent. Now, keep in mind, the rarities of the characters don't necessarily correlate to the tier list positions here. I got some characters that are on the rare list, aka the common list, that I would take over certain legendary characters. So, anyways, Scarlet Widow is next. That's a fire type. She takes 3 blocks and can inherit 68% of the character's base stats. That's pretty strong. And we got some upgrades on her, so she's even stronger right now. But skills include Scatter Shot, which fires which causes her to fire 2 flame bullets, and Penetration, which increases the flame bullet penetration by 1. And any sort of extra damage done to extra characters is very useful in this game. I'm going to give her a B+, pretty strong, not spectacular, but very strong. Oh, and putting a burning effect on an enemy is also extra good because it can do a little bit of damage over time. Next up, we got the Spider Orchid. That is 3 straight blocks, inherits 60% of the base stats, which is surprisingly less than Scarlet person. Anyways, Rapid Shot. That increases rapid shots by 1, damage by goes down by 10%, and then Berserk causes the crit rate to increase by 10% per attack for 3 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. And physical plants get stronger. Now, that really is not impressive to me, only 3 seconds of time. So I'm going to give Spider Zorrot, because that's almost useless with automatic. So I'm going to give Spider Orchid, rather, a B tier. Yaganion Killer I guess. Yaganion Killer. This is a 4 blocker who inherits 100% of the character's base stats. And even outside of the base stats, his own base stats are sky high compared to some of the other ones. He's a 4 blocker, so his stats should be high, but he's extra strong. Not only that, but you got a skill that upgrades the Claw Strike to the Double Claw, and you have a second skill that unleashes a Gas Flame every 3 attacks, and the main attack actually does a little bit of splash damage. It can hit multiple enemies that are close to each other, not just one enemy. Yaganion Killer is one of my absolute favorites in this entire game. The only downside to Yaganion Killer for me is the fact that it can be hard to fit it in the board. Nevertheless, I'm going to S-. We got next Coronarius Captain, 2 blocks, 27.2 of the character's base is fairly low. Poison plants increase in stats. Ricochet increases bullet ricochets by 1, damage down by 20, and this one inflicts poison for just 3 seconds, but that deals damage equal to 30% of attack per second. So poison damage takes effect very fast from the secondary skill. I'm giving Captain Cornelius a B. Excuse me, Coronarius, whatever, who cares about these names. I'm giving him a B plus. No, I'm giving him a B because the base stats are a little bit weak for my taste. Pod Shooter, this one inherits 54.4% of characters' base stats and has the ability to slow down an enemy, 40% chance for slow, which slows him down for 10% for 2 seconds. 2 seconds isn't long, but it makes a decent effect. Now this one, each time the pod shooter fires, 2 additional bullets go in random directions. Even those random directional bullets are pretty likely to hit when you got a big crowd on the screen. And the base shots that this thing fires are pretty good. So I'm going to go B plus on this one. Of course, it's a 3 spotter. Next up, we got Bruce Banana. 54.4% of characters' base stats are inherited. The attack speed on this one is surprisingly pretty high. Rapid shot, +1, damage down 20. When it hits an enemy, it electrifies them for 3 seconds, dealing 40% damage per second. That's pretty high secondary damage. I like Bruce Banana. I'm actually going to move the pod shooter down to 3 blocks and Bruce Banana up to, move pod shooter B tier. This guy goes B plus. Peach Wukong, this is a 1 blocker that inherits 17.5% of the base stats. This one is a legendary. Now, I'm a little biased. I don't have a whole lot of use for 1 blockers other than to get the skill that increases attack power for the amount of plants that are on the board. If you got a bunch of 1 blockers on the board, that works perfectly. Otherwise, meh. But skill effect, while Peach Wukong is there, increases deployed physical plants crit rate by 8, stacking up to 4 times. That's pretty good. Peach Wukong smashes the ground with the golden cudgel and creates a shockwave, dealing area of effect damage equal to 100% of attack. That's pretty good, except that, I mean, Peach Wukong has some low-ish attack power, but for a 1 blocker, the attack power is pretty good. I'm going to upgrade. Nah, I can't upgrade. Crap. Actually, you know what? I'm giving Peach Wukong an A- because I believe Peach Wukong is the strongest of the 1 blockers in the entire game. So, if you want a 1 blocker in there, better Peach Wukong than the Tomato Bomber, or whatever he's called. Alright, Pharaoh Nut is next. Pharaoh Nut is a slow attacker and kind of low on power, but attack buffs other lightning ones. So good to have in there if you got Bruce the Banana as well. Inherits 36% of the character's base stats, which is actually pretty good for a 2-blocker. This skill, lightning plants adjacent to Pharaoh gain 12% attack boost. That stacks up to 4 times. When the Thunderbolt bat hits an enemy, it splits into 2 small bats that fly toward nearby enemies, dealing damage equal to 75% of attack. So the skills, while kind of, or the stats, while looking kind of crappy at first, are actually a little stronger than once thought. They can be easily upgraded by powering up your character, and those skills are actually excellent. So I'm putting this one at A-, B+, right on the borderline. Spopach, the Popeye spinach, inherits 27.2% of the base stats. That's more in keeping with some of these 2 blockers. Focus. When spinach hits the same target, it increases damage by 15% up to 5 times. When Spopach hits the enemy 3 times, inflicts defense break on them, reducing defense by 30% for 3 seconds. So I don't know how often Spopach is going to actually hit an enemy 3 times, even though it's a fast shooter. So to be honest with me, that one's mostly useless. Now the other skills are basically buffs, just like on everything else. So I'm going B for Popeye, not bad. Tomato Bomber, we've got Tomato Bomber here. Don't worry everybody, we got the Tomato Bomber. 1 square, rare guy, Implosion, deals 40% of attack worth of area of effect damage. However, the attack is so low that this is practically a useless skill to have. I'm going B- on this one. Inflicts burning though, dealing damage equal to 30% of attack per second. The attack is so low it even makes burning not that much worth it. Pass on the Tomato Bomber, B-, maybe C+. Alright, Iron Durian. Very, 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 very strong base stats. Inherits up to 125% of the character's base stats. Tons of hit points, tons of attack. Kind of a slow attacker. Boosts the stats of fellow lightning plants and is a 4 blocker. Iron Durian's pulse bomb explodes. There's an 8% chance to paralyze the enemy. 8%? Okay, who cares? 8% is not high. I mean, it's a little high when you got a tower defense game full of crowds, but even then. Arc laser. For every 3 pulse bombs Iron Durian plants, fires a guided laser at the nearest enemy for 3 seconds, dealing 160% of attack per second. That is a massively overpowered skill, especially against bosses, because you're going to need a lot of power to take down bosses. Iron Durian is really freaking good, you guys. I'm going S- tentatively. Oh, and Iron Durian also hybridizes with whatever this thing is to make the Thunder Durian. Thunder Orange. Yeah, hybridizes with the Thunder Orange. Thunder Orange is a 1 blocker, which inherits 17% of the base stats of your character. That is obviously still a Thunder type. Increases deployed lightning plants attack by 12% and damage to shielded enemies by 8%. Pretty good. I like the shield breaker skill. When Thunder Orange hits the enemy, inflicts electrified on them for 4 seconds, dealing damage equal to 20% of attack per second. That can stack up to 4 times also. So, yeah, multi-stack electrified. I like the shield break there and the causing of vulnerabilities in enemies. I'm going B+, A-, borderline on this one, which is pretty good for a 1 blocker. And then we got Poseidon Gourd. That is a legendary as well, water type, with very, very strong attack power and health, and faster attack speed than the Iron Durian. Boosts the water types. There's not that many water types compared to some of the others, at least from what we've seen. When Poseidon Gourd hits an enemy, it can inflict slow, reducing... It does inflict slow, 100% chance. That's pretty good. Throws 3 tridents every 3 attacks, dealing damage equal to 130% of attack per trident, I believe, which is also very strong. This one also gets an S-, and it's a 4 blocker. Now, you can't really have too many 4 blockers in your lineup, which is unfortunate because they tend to be so absurdly strong. But you could probably put at least 2. Pepper Ranger is next. That's a 2 blocker with 42.5% of base stats. That's pretty good for a 2 blocker. Fire Plant, when Pepper Ranger enters the fight, increases all deployed fire peppers attack speed, or Fire Plant's attack speed by 15%. It can stack up to 4 times. Pretty good. When Pepper Ranger's rockets hit an enemy, it inflicts burning for 4 seconds, equal to 30% damage per second. Normally, these secondary effect things last 3 seconds, so to have one last 4 seconds, that's pretty strong. I'm going to give this one an A. That's an excellent 2 vertical block one. Here's Yaganion Lotus, 2 horizontal blocks here. That is a water type that inherits 45%, which is really good. And so the skills are, we got when Yaganion Lotus is on the field, increases deployed water plant slow and freeze effects by 12%, and attack by 12%, stacking up to 4 times. Good boost. Skill effect for the Water Lotus. There's a 50% chance to spawn a Water Lotus for 3 seconds, dealing damage equal to 50% attack per second. That sounds like a AoE. That sounds like a really good AoE skill, kind of. That's really good. I'm giving the Yaganion Lotus an A also. Come on. Alright, Mandrake Witch is a legendary poisoner for 3 blocks. Inherits a whopping 85% of the character's base stats. That's really good for a 3 blocker. And so her skills are going to be, when Mandrake Witch hits the enemy, there's a 40% chance to create a poison dust cloud for 3 seconds. Holy cow. Dealing 60% attack per second. So just imagine, if you will, a crowd of enemies in a wave walking through that poison dust cloud. That is a pretty huge boost. And she's got really strong attack power. Poison Elves, Mandrake Witch, summoned, +1, damage -10. Okay, so it essentially doubles her attack and decreases the attack power by 10%. That's really strong. I'm giving her an A+. All right, Thanos. We got the Titan Tuber. We got a sweet potato that looks like Thanos. Even has an infinity ring. That is a poison type also. Attack boost and vulnerability. And so let's look at the skills. Attack boost for all poison plants by 22%, stacking up to 4 times. That's the strongest first skill boost we've seen yet. When the energy beam hits an enemy, it inflicts poison for 4 seconds, dealing damage equal to 30% per second. So that is a pretty strong secondary effect. But if you got a lot of poison types, that primary boost is absolutely killer. Base stats are not that strong. I'm going B+, for 104,697. Yeah, that's... Oh, I'm going a B. That's kind of weak sauce for a legendary. I don't care if it's a 2 blocker. Then we got Hulk Melon. Base stats are a little weaker than some of the other 4 blockers, but inherits 25%. Summons a super watermelon every 2 attacks. dealing AoE damage equal to 170%. So that is 170% attack damage against a splash of enemies. Secondary is the Hulk Melon accumulates rage per every attack, increasing crit rate by 13% for 3 seconds, stacking up to 4 times. So that's a lot of critical hits. And for an AoE type, all those critical hits can make a huge difference. I'm giving this one an A+ to S-. Pitaya King, that's a fire type. AoE stunner with burning. That is a 4 blocker. Similar stats to the watermelon guy. After Pitaya King's Meteor Strike, creates a flame crater for 2 seconds, dealing 50% damage per second. Not bad, pretty good, especially pretty good for a number 1 skill. Expand Pitaya King's flame crater area and increases damage by 30%. Pretty good. I'm giving that one an A+. It's not blowing my skirt up as much as some of the other 4 blockers did, but it's close. Next up, we got General Pineapple that inherits 100% of the character's base. Now, the character inheritance, as we can tell, is based off both rarity and blocks. Thunderstrike, when General Pineapple hits, there's a 40% chance to summon a Striking Thunder, dealing AoE damage equal to 110% of the attack. So 40% chance of a second attack, and it's AoE. That's not bad. Striking Thunder's General Pineapple summon +1. Striking Thunder damage down 25%. And Pineapple guy, oh geez. That's actually a pretty significant drop-off in stats and in inherited stats from the previous 4 blockers. I'm giving this one a B+. Now the Garlic Knight, that is a 1 blocker. A poison type, attack buff, stats not that strong. 13% of base stats is pretty low. Poison plants adjacent gain an 8% attack boost. Garlic Knight Spear rapid shots +1 damage -10. Nothing really impresses me about Garlic Knight unless you have a lot of poisons there. I'm giving this one a B-. Blueberry Mage, another 1 blocker. Same stats as the previous one, except how's the attack speed? Same. Water plants adjacent gain 8% attack. 40% chance to explode an ice spike in the target location, dealing damage equal to 140% of attack. That is actually not that bad. That skill gives Blueberry Mage a little bit of a saving grace. I'm going B. And Cherry Reaper. Cherry Reaper is a 2 blocker that inherits 36%. Pretty good. First skill, oh, it's fire type, by the way, with slow attack, actually. Fire plants adjacent gain 12% attack boost, stacking up to 4 times. When Cherry Reaper's Ghost Fire hits an enemy, ricochets +1, damage -10. Kind of boring, but looks like it's got okay stats for a 2 blocker. I'm going B on this one too. All right, that is all the characters. I know that most of the S tier ones have been 4 blockers, but it is what it is. Take your pick from these ones and try to put the best ones that you can into your lineup and or onto your board. I mean, half of the equation is random anyway, so you got to do your best work with it, but try to get more than 1. Try to get 2 of the 4 blockers in there, and you could potentially end up having a really strong attack, especially once you unlock more blocks on the board. Anyways, this is Game Hydro with a plant tier list for whatever this game's called. Please like and subscribe if you like our channel, and if you like my weird dry humor.